Hello, right, I don't have to do a this time because this isn't an election broadcast because I've been elected. And if I haven't heard before, yeah, thank you very much for that. But I'm outside the Civic Suite at North Warwickshire Borough Council, which is where the council chamber is. And I've just had the first Borough Council meeting as a newly elected councillor of Waterward. And it was very interesting. So to bring you up to speed, I will be publishing my voting record as what I voted on all the issues tonight, and I'll be giving some explanation on that, and the explanation is going to come here. And the big thing today is about who forms the administration. And if you didn't know, the Conservatives had 17 councillors, Labour 15, and Independents 3. As I tweeted, is that I'd have expected, because Conservatives were short of 1, if I was David Riley, my oppo, in Waterward, the Conservative council, and also the deputy leader of the Conservative group, I'd have thought, do you know what, there's a really good opportunity to do a great deal for our village here. And I've expected to have conversations with, well, basically everyone. And I had no communication with the Conservative group whatsoever. I did have extensive conversations with my fellow independents, and my line with them was basically is that one group only needs one of us, the other group needs all 3 of us. Therefore, is that you actually ally with the one who's weakest, who needs you the most. That's the basis of my argument, and therefore we can potentially leverage ourselves to get more of the things that we want done, you know, and that's not to the detriment of the whole everywhere else, but, well, not in my perspective anyway. But let's see if we can be the front of queues where things are tried, where we want to try different ways of working. Why can't we pilot those in Waterward, and then if they're successful, roll them out elsewhere? That was my thinking. However, when push came to shove, they didn't feel that they could, well, they said, we can't do that. We can't align with the Labour group, which I felt is very disappointing when people have stood, like me, on the basis that you are independent and you're not aligned. But, you know, they stood and they said, well, we stood against Labour, but you know, and therefore people voted for us rather than Labour, so we can't really stand for Labour. I wanted to point out to them that actually that there were no Conservative candidates in their ward, so Conservatives scored 0 votes. So that as an argument holds no weight. Similarly is that, yeah, there's lots of things going on. But then you go and do your due diligence, and then you look at people's Twitter feeds, and then you see what actually their party political allegiances pretty much are. So no real surprise there. Now, the way that this means, though, is the Conservative group proposed a committee structure where they would hold effectively the majority on every single board. The Labour group proposed one where they would either be 50-50 or 50-50 and an independent, therefore meaning that we would hold significant influence and power. This, when we were discussing things as an independent group, they said, well, yeah, obviously we're going to vote for, you know, one of the 2 options, and the option that gives the greater leverage to the independents. They voted against that tonight, which is completely bizarre. And you sort of wonder why, except then you realise that there was a further motion that had been placed. So the committee structure is pretty much Conservative-led now. The leader of the council is Conservative. Just going to go off on a tangent here, is that when the debate on that was actually held, which was only 2 speakers really, the leader of the council, David Wright, said in his summing up that basically it was very partisan. It was, yeah, you got more votes this time, but you didn't get enough. Therefore, we're the largest party. That's how democracy works. If he'd have made that speech as his proposal speech, I would have stood and spoken, and I'd have made the point to him that more independents were successful as a percentage than either the party, you know, the political parties that were represented there, and as such, you know, democracy seems to suggest that actually we should hold that kind of influence, you know, as well. I don't want to be overly influential, do you know what I mean, in terms of, you know, is that we did only form 2.3% of the overall vote, or whatever it was, you know, across the whole of North Warwickshire. But all of us stood on platforms are saying, well, actually we don't want party politics, and that seemed to resonate with people, and that voice should be heard, and it shouldn't be negated on the basis of party politics. So anyway, so then there was a second motion that had been proposed that was from the Labour group around the local plan. Now the local plan basically says of all the houses that have to be built in North Warwickshire, this is where they're going to be. Now from a Water Orton perspective, we've done quite well on this plan. Every ward should, you know, have a proportion. The housing developments on the Dog and the old school site basically are our only commitments on that plan, as far as I understand it. I'm going to be put right on that. But there are certain places that aren't, and one of those places is Dordon. Dordon is required to take thousands of houses, you know, so much so that it's now referred to as Polesworth Dordon. You know, there's not going to be any real differential between that, and that obviously was of great concern to the other two independents who are elected to represent Dordon. Now, having not been able to come up with a plan for them, or be able to align with them, because I decided that I can't form a party group with someone that actually wasn't actually going to be acting in an independent fashion. So that means I'm all on my own. But it means that I'm true to my principles, and I'm not lending my legitimacy to a group who actually don't have to give me anything back in return. Is that my feeling was that they would vote in favour of this reopening of the plan alongside the Labour group, and expecting me to vote with the Labour group as well, and saying that which would allow the Conservatives to vote against the opening of the plan, maintain their position as protectors of the green belt, you know, and support that, knowing that it would go ahead anyway, at which point, because they had got the balance of all the committees and everything else like that and wield the political majority, the plan that then came out would have been pretty much the same, only to the benefit of Dordon. And what would actually more than likely happen would be that those extra houses would be even more disproportionately affected those areas that haven't necessarily voted Conservative. That's my belief. That's what I felt would possibly happen. I waited for the debate to take place, and in actual fact is that I had sort of come to the conclusion in advance of the meeting, but again, I'd be willing to there, but my gut feeling is that if that vote came to the fore, whereas I would have voted in favour of reopening the local plan on the basis that I want to lead the change that would take place, and actually there is space for more houses of Water Orton, provided they're of the right type, so some starter homes for people trying to get onto the ladder, and some bungalows for people who are looking to downsize, rather than building more 3 or 4 bedroom houses, which in actual fact are just being blocked at the moment. So, you know, actually giving stuff that works and helps for us and taking our share, as long as it's done sympathetically, I don't feel that that's the plan that would have come out. So therefore, I'm telling you now, is that on that motion I would almost certainly have voted against. However, that motion was withdrawn, and at the moment it was withdrawn, there were some very surprised looks and some very upset people across the chamber, and there was an awful lot of to-in and fro-in and mopping of brows and trying to unfurl those brows elsewhere. And some people looked very shocked because they'd signed up and voted for one thing, expecting to get the quid pro quo in return, which suddenly wasn't there. And so, yeah, an awful lot of people here. I wondered, I felt that with the makeup of the council, there was potential for independents to leverage their position, yeah, and actually get some good things done for the benefit of those wards and also North Warwickshire as a whole, because I've got a slightly bigger picture rather than just looking after my own backyard, but focus very much on what Water Orton needs and trying to see that that's where our money goes. But when I signed up to stand for election, I didn't anticipate that being the situation. I didn't stand up for this as being someone who would be in a council of no overall control. The fact of the matter is now, yeah, the situation I've been able to tell myself is that, yeah, I might not hold that leverage right now, but that isn't what I signed up to do. I can carry on doing the job that I anticipated that I would end up doing anyway. The fact that something different might have happened, well, nah, that's life. But that situation over the next 4 years could change considerably. And when it does, that's when you know who, yeah, you build up the relationships, and you work for your constituents. Are you constituents? Are you electors? Are you villagers? But for my fellow villagers. I'm now going to drive back to Waterwalk. Probably the only one here who is. Okay, I hope that explains some of the reasons why I voted for what I did. I have to say is that I was rather disappointed by the behaviour of some people here tonight, the respect that's been shown to others while they're speaking. You might not vote one way, but you really think at least play the part, at least look like you're interested in what other people say. But we'll carry on with that and we'll deal with it in the future. Okay, take care.
All right,
speak to you soon. All the best. Bye bye.
I still apologise.